I would bring back Tywin Lannister because everybody who's died feels like their death served a really important purpose in terms of the show. Like, it's moved things forward, it's done this, it's done that. And I know that there's sort of an element of Tywin's death sort of opening up this power vacuum and whatnot, but I really think, like, not from a story perspective, like, the show lost a lot when Tywin died, because Charles Dance is, like, probably the best actor they've had throughout absolutely everything. So, I mean, when you go back and watch random scenes, it's always something with him in, when he's talking down to somebody, or he's explaining somebody, or he's just cutting people to ribbons on the show. We haven't had that since he left. So if I could bring anybody back, I don't know how you do it. He is thoroughly dead and died on the toilet, which is got to be one of top 3 worst ways to go in the show, purely for the indignity, like head exploding, cut down the middle while you're having a poo. That's probably, yeah, but you can't. I don't know how you bring him back. You probably can't, but I think the show misses him. I miss him, ergo everybody else should. That's all I've got.
I would bring back Khal Drogo. Not technically bringing him back as such, like I don't want him alive in season 8, so maybe I'm going against the point of the whole question here. Basically, because I think Daenerys is going to die in season 8. I think that'll be towards the end. And I really want Khal Drogo to then appear to her as she's passing, kind of going back to the House of the Undying from season 2 when she sees Drogo and Rhaegar in the tent. I really want that to be Daenerys' ending, because I think it needs to be something quite poignant for her. She can't just die and then that's it and they move on. We need to see a little bit of what happens next for her, and I think because Drogo is the love of her life and everything surrounds her and the child they were going to have. So I think it would be really powerful to have them come back into her life at the very end, to see Jason Momoa again, who has always still felt like a big part of the show despite only really being in season 1 and their chemistry being so amazing, and obviously they're really good friends off screen. I think to have him come back just for that final moment would really complete her arc and bring everything full circle. And yeah.
Nice awkward moment where he meets Jon Snow, is that?
Well, nah, because she's dead, mate, so.
It's the boyfriend, is it? Small, but no.
You know what, this was really hard. Like, all the characters I thought about, their arcs are sort of completed. Like we said, their deaths served a purpose, and like, I don't really want to see them back because it would kind of ruin the importance of that, except from Robert Baratheon, because he's a guy all the way back from season 1. He's in what I dub Game of Thrones' banter era. He had nothing to worry about. What were his biggest problems? Oh, his best mate wouldn't be his hand. Oh, my wife's secretly shagging her brother. Like, he didn't care. He had nothing to worry about. And then he'd come back at the end of the show when all this shit has gone down and be like, lads, what's going on here? Like, what have I missed? I've missed loads. He would not be able to cope. I think he'd Tom himself. Like, he'd just go out the window. Like, he'd be back. He'd look at the state of the world. White Walker's coming in. Everyone's dead. All of his friends are gone. And he'd just be like, nah, I'm peacing out. I'm going out the window again. Like, I resent you for bringing me back. I don't know how he'd come back or who would even bring him back. But imagine him meeting Cersei again, and she's just like, oh, this prick, our man.
What did you do to your head, you stupid bloody woman?
You stupid bloody woman. He wouldn't be able to cope. Like, if you think of Robert Baratheon, he's practically from a different show at this point. He wouldn't function now. And I'd love to just see that sort of juxtaposition. You kind of got it when Gendry finally stopped rowing and he came back to a completely different world. But this would be even more so, and I'd love to see it.
If I could bring anyone back who's been offed in Game of Thrones, I'd probably bring back Ramsay Bolton. Look, he's misunderstood. No, of course not. It's Ned Stark. Of course it's Ned Stark. Now, how you do that, I don't really know unless you say, actually, he's part man, part tortoise, and just stuck his head in when they swung the axe, and that was a fake head on the tower. But imagine him coming back after all the stuff that's happened. Imagine him coming back and seeing where everyone is, where Jon is, where Sansa is, not where Rickon is, because, but him coming back after everything that's happened would be fascinating to see. You know, maybe he helps out at the end, or maybe he just comes back and says, well, I did say winter was coming, and then that's the end.
I read the Song of Ice and Fire books a long time ago. I feel like we haven't had one in a few years, and that's putting it lightly. And for the longest time, I was ahead of the series, and I felt very powerful. And then the series sort of caught up, overtook, and the series has gone a completely different direction from the books. So there's a whole character and a whole separate storyline with someone who has died, who actually does come back in the books. Spoiler, I guess. Who I would really have loved to have been in season 8. Now, the guys over at the Red Desk have told me there's no way of that happening. Maybe they're teasing me, I don't know. But this character is known as Lady Stoneheart, and what it is Catelyn Stark actually survived getting her throat cut. She washed down the river, kind of did die, but gets found and is okay again. But she's kind of like, she can't speak because of obviously losing her vocal area, and so she's just kind of this silent, like kind of grey-faced woman who just orders the death of like flipping everybody. And she is this like really terrifying, powerful character who looks like Catelyn. And it was a long time ago I read the books, but she was, I used to, like, I remember skipping ahead to see if there was any more Stoneheart for a bit and then going, oh, and then going back to where I actually was. But she was just this really interesting character that I would have loved to have seen in the series, just to see, I mean, imagine her having a wee chat. Well, imagine her looking at Sansa. Imagine Sansa just going, Ma? Like, honestly, I think that would be really powerful and terrifying and very Game of Thronesy. But I don't see it happening, unfortunately. But it would be really cool.
Well, we've had like the absolute banter pick of Robert Baratheon because he's a mad swiller and a mad shagger, as I've heard described in the room. But the ultimate swiller and the ultimate shagger of Game of Thrones, who has also sadly passed away, was Oberyn Martell.
Not wrong.
The Red Viper. The man who shagged, he swilled, he said things as they were and was just the ultimate, like, he was just the ultimate great character of Game of Thrones that I want to see again. Like, I would give anything to see that man wander around, look at all the sand snakes and Dawn and go, what the hell has gone on here? Let's fix this storyline and make it good again. Seems the whole sand snake thing went off on a tangent that was not pleasant to watch compared to the novels and all that sort of thing. But yeah, watching Oberyn Martell come back and do some absolute jabbing with his swords and running around with his spears and just bringing Dawn back to power and being amazing would be fantastic. And seeing him in a big orgy with loads more wine and women and men would be also quite good. Yeah, just yeah. But yeah, no, he had a horrible death that he did not deserve when he was running around with the mountain. What do you mean? He did not deserve that.
He fannied on.
He did not deserve that death.
Showboated, yeah, showboated.
He showboated, but he had reason to showboat. He was the showiest boat. Like, I was living for it. Like, he didn't deserve the mountain to kill him. And if he comes back and has the actual showdown with the mountain, now that he's admitted everything, he could absolutely muller him and it would be great. Like, Clegane Bowl is not where it is at. I want to see the Viper get his revenge. That's what I want to see. Free Ilaria from the horrible little dungeon she's in, and then Pear just rule Westeros. That's what needs to happen. But if he came back as a white, he'd have a really mushy head. Like that's.
So it has to be Hodor. Who has to come back? Hodor. So let's have some context. In season 8, we're going to see the biggest white army we've ever seen. We've already seen it's quite big. We're going to see, hopefully, ice spiders as big as hounds for James. So he loves spiders, send spiders to James. We're going to see probably more polar bears. We're going to see giants, hopefully, if they don't forget about them again. And it's just going to be really good. But none of the heroes, the alive people, are going to be all that scared of these things anymore because they've faced them all. They've got dragon glass. They have means to kill them. Okay, so there's lots of them, but if you were that scared, you wouldn't be like, okay, we're gonna go and fight them. We're gonna go and steal one of them. Not scared anymore. This is not good enough. So what they need to do is make them hurt in the fields, which is what the show does to us, of course. Yes. And the only way to do that, the most successful way, is to have the Starks face up to dead Hodor, have him appear out of the murk, and them all have to live with the idea of having to kill him again. There you go. And then he wins and sits on the throne.